Hey everyone, it's Nate Jones here with a little vaccine FYI.
First, let's start out with Karen Kingston tonight. She is the former Pfizer employee, and she has been telling us now, I don't know, what's it been going on, 4 years, what we've been talking with Karen. Here is the headline tonight, folks. This is breaking news. FDA, listen, folks, this should, you need to sit down for this one. It's so catastrophic. The FDA authorized and then concealed a myocarditis experiment on over 100,000 military personnel using the ACAM 2000 Mpox vaccine, so-called vaccine. The FDA concealed a controversial myocarditis experiment on over 100,000 military personnel. This is big news, folks, because clearly they're carrying out a form of genocide on our own U.S. military at a time. You would never want this to happen, ever. But you're going to eliminate a bunch of our military. Either they're dead or they are so injured they can't be a part of our warfighting machine at a time when we're about to go to World War III. Oh, the FDA, fraud and genocide. Great headline. Joining me now is Karen Kingston. Hi, Karen. Welcome back to the broadcast, and thank you for bringing us this breaking news story tonight.
Thanks for having me back, Brandon. It's always an honor to speak with you and your audience. So, yeah, it was 3 years ago. It was actually October 2021. I was on your show. We were talking about the COVID-19 injections, and I said the FDA approval was not only illegal, it was criminal. It was criminal, and it needs to stop now. And when last week, Jessica Riojas, I think I'm saying her name right, her Twitter blew up because she exposed the Mpox approval, the Mpox vaccine approval from the FDA for Emergence ACAM 2000. That's the monkeypox vaccine. So, you know me, I went into the FDA database to see what the data was that the approval was based on. It was based on 24 monkeys. Wow. But then when I looked, yeah, and we'll go through that. But then when I looked at the original approval for ACAM 2000, which was given in 2007, I couldn't find the original data that approval was based on, but I did find as part of their approval letter that the FDA ordered the manufacturer of ACAM 2000 to do a study in 30,000 military personnel to track the incidence of myocarditis and other cardiovascular diseases and the progression of those diseases, and then ordered another study of between 100,000 and 200,000 military personnel to do a surveillance study of ACAM 2000 induced myocarditis across 1 to 200,000 military personnel. That study was ordered in 2007. It was supposed to be completed by 2011. And then in 2015, the FDA sent a letter to the manufacturer of ACAM 2000, which at the time was Sanofi, which is a huge biopharma and vaccine manufacturer. So the FDA sent a letter in 2015 instructing Sanofi to remove the records of this biowarfare criminal experiment that the FDA ordered.
So let me get this straight. Are you saying that after they knew that this was having huge consequences for 100,000 of our military, they then went and did an experiment on 24 monkeys and based the release of this on 24 monkeys?
So, yes. So what happened was they knew that ACAM 2000 causes myocarditis.
Which they saw in these 100,000 troops, right?
Yeah, which they observed. That's how they got, we'll go through the slides. I think your audience, this should be breaking news. Congress should be all over this.
Oh, yes.
And there should be a FOIA request to get that data on the 30,000 and then 1 to 200,000 military personnel who were injected with, make no mistake, a bioweapon.
And just so our audience understands, and then they went and after that was a huge mess with those 100,000. They then go and do an experiment with 24 monkeys. Were they manipulating the outcome of those 24 tests with those monkeys in order to show, oh yeah, this is safe, roll it out? What were they doing?
Yes, yeah, they were. And we'll go through the 24 monkey data, but they had data from over 100,000 formerly healthy men and women that they showed they caused disease and death in. And then they do a study in 24 monkeys to prove it as safe and effective in humans.
Okay, wow. All right, so the reason we did this, the old thing in speaking, tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So we just told you guys in basically the Cliff Note version what the story is. Now let's delve into the details. And as always, Karen comes prepared with a great keynote presentation. So let's start out with slide 1. So this was just dated back in August 2022 of this year. So here we were just talking about this last month.
Yeah, this was just 3 weeks ago. So what you and I talked about, because I want to take this, full circle, not to quote Jen Psaki from, a few years ago, but you and I were talking just a few weeks ago about how Mpox or monkeypox was actually embedded in the SARS-CoV-2 injections, the COVID-19 vaccines that we're calling them, and in the virus. So that's what we were talking about, that this was a bioweapon embedded inside of a bioweapon under the guise of a vaccine. And and now they've come out with the FDA-approved, the new ACAM 2000 FDA-approved monkeypox vaccine. But we were just literally talking about how there's going to be an outbreak of monkeypox, or smallpox-related disease, potentially just from people that were inoculated. And we also talked about the NIH database and grants that showed that the Mpox could be aerosolized. So there could be aerosolized challenges is what they call them. So aerosolized bioweapons attack. I want to be clear that what the FDA authorized was the use of bioweapons on our U.S. military. Not only did they authorize it, they ordered it. So that's what we're going to go through.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Yeah.
Here we go. There's your next slide.
So this is from my Substack. Again, I just broke this 20 minutes ago, and it's behind a paywall, but obviously I give you full permission to go through all of this because I want your audience to know, and I hope this does go viral. But what's so controversial, yes, is that ACAM 2000 was approved as safe and effective for use in healthy human beings. But as we go through the history of the approval and the experiments, the data that we're about to show and the evidence we're about to show your audience is incriminating evidence against the FDA authorizing the use of bioweapons on the U.S. military, and it also incriminates biopharma companies, including Sanofi, for engaging in bioweapons use, biowarfare on our own military.
All right.
Yeah. So again, I hope that this is covered. I hope Congress picks this up. I hope that this research is FOIA'd. So this was what I think it's Jessica Riojas had broken on Twitter last week, and she had just showed the package insert of the ACAM 2000, which is the approved FDA labeling. And you can see right there at the top, Brandon, it says suspected cases of myocarditis and or pericarditis, so that's heart inflammation, have been observed in healthy adult primary vaccinees, so people that were injected, at a rate of 5.71 thousand. And then there's also the brain inflammation, which is encephalitis, and encephalomyelitis, which is swelling of the whole central nervous system, your spinal cord, and then the skin lesions. And then it says that the quote-unquote vaccine, which is ACAM 2000, includes the live, which is a lab-created, a lab-recreated smallpox vaccina, the actual virus. So it actually contains the bioweapon. And the question is, go on to the next slide, they approved this based on a study in 24 monkeys. So where did they get the 5.7 per 1,000 rate of myocarditis from? They got it from the military study of over 100,000 military men and women. So that's what I pulled. So what I went back and looked at is the FDA approval. So just like we did with Comirnaty when we went through the approval, that shows on October 23rd, I think it is, 27th, 2023, they submitted their biological license application, and they paid hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars for a PDUFA date, a Pharmaceutical Drug User Fee Act date, to get an FDA approval that was scheduled for August 26th of this year. I think it happened on August 29th or the 30th, the actual approval. And if you read the biological license application, what data did the FDA look at? They looked at data in 24 monkeys. It's right there.
Good grief.
So they looked at data in 24 monkeys, and of those, for approval in humans, when they had a study of over 100,000 men and women.
But they wanted to ignore that data because they could not get approval based on that data because it showed damage being done to those people. Our military.
Exactly. Severe damage. So, they knew the injection causes heart inflammation and progressive cardiovascular disease and death.
Now, who do they want to use this so-called vaccine for now?
Oh, we'll see. Let's keep going.
Okay.
They want to use it on all of us. So the
boy.
monkey study, just in case people care about the monkey study, I'm sure some people do. So 8 monkeys were injected with ACAM 2000. 8 were injected with Dryvax. Dryvax was the original, or was the latest version of the smallpox vaccine. It was removed from the market in 1972 because it was eradicated. Smallpox was eradicated in the United States. And then 8 monkeys were injected with a diluent, which is called glycerin phenol. It just numbs them. So what happened? All 8 monkeys, and 60 days later, the monkeys were injected with the smallpox virus, which is what's in the vaccine anyway. So I don't get how this works. All 8 monkeys that were only given the control, which is the diluent, all 8 monkeys died. Even though 5 of them produced antibodies, they still died. And allegedly, none of the monkeys in the Dryvax or the ACAM 2000 group died. And allegedly, none of them got any lesions. Although if you go back to the FDA-approved labeling for ACAM 2000, they say, successful vaccination is only based on whether or not people they actually have to get Mpox lesions on their skins, and that shows that they actively were immunized, because now they're actively carrying the infection. And per the labeling, now they can infect other people with smallpox once they get injected. That's very clearly laid out. So go on to the next slide. So that's the monkeys. This is the original. So then I went back and looked at the original 2007 approval. And at the time, the company was called Cambus, I think. I can't pronounce it. So go on to the next slide. So in this approval, I couldn't find the data that it was based on. But just like with Comirnaty, the FDA ordered post-market studies, post-FDA approval studies, phase 4 studies. And Brandon, maybe you want to just read those studies, because I think you're better at delivering this than I am.
You have agreed to carry out a phase 4 prospective cohort study in the military population receiving ACAM 2000. Study groups will include approximately 15,000 ACAM 2000 vaccines and an appropriately sized control group. The duration of the study will be 2 years. The objectives of this study are to provide, and then it begins to list them, general safety information and expected and unexpected adverse events. And then, as she has in the box, additional information on the natural history and clinical outcome of myocarditis and pericarditis after ACAM 2000. And
Stop right there. Stop right there. Do you see what that's saying? They're saying ACAM 2000 causes myocarditis and pericarditis. It's right there in writing.
Wow. And will include performance of EKGs, echocardiograms, and troponin, and other clinically appropriate testing, and at least annually on identified cases.
Yeah, troponin is the enzyme levels that go through the roof when you have a heart attack. Now go on to the next slide, because this is another study that they ordered. Just read this, Brandon. This just blew away.
You have agreed to implement an enhanced surveillance program to ascertain at least 75% of symptomatic cases of myocarditis and pericarditis after ACAM 2000 vaccination.
Brandon, yeah, I mean, do people understand what that says?
A surveillance program. How are they going to surveil them?
It says right there they're going to surveil them using the World Wide Web, email, telephone, and post in the post office. So they're just going to constantly do follow-up surveys. But this says you're going to inject an estimated population size of 100,000 to 200,000 military service members. And we know a percentage of them are going to then present with symptomatic, so with symptoms, with chest pain and shortness of breath and inability to exercise and function. You're going to then track them after the ACAM 2000 causes cardiovascular disease in 1 to 200,000 of these military men and women.
Are they saying they know in advance there's going to be at least a 75% symptomatic cases?
I'm not. Enhanced surveillance to at least 75% of well, no, they're saying that you have to surveil 75% of cases that are symptomatic versus asymptomatic.
Okay. So they didn't know what percentage were going to have myocarditis or pericarditis. They didn't know what percent were going to have it.
Well, so I don't have the screenshot there, but it appears that they were banking on 150 having myocarditis after the 15,000 got injected. So that's a rate of 1%.
Is that right?
That's a high rate. 150 divided by 15,000 is 1%. So that's a ridiculously high rate.
And what rate did it really end up being? So they were expecting 1%. What percentage did it end up being?
Well, they said it's 5.7 per 1,000, so that's 0.5% or 0.6%. But I think that's a lie. Just like it's a lie that it's whatever less than 1% myocarditis with the mRNA shots. It's probably much higher, you know. But I don't think these military personnel know that they were injected with a bioweapon.
You think some of them are walking around right now still have no idea what they were injected with?
Yeah. That's why, go on to the next slide. That's why the FDA ordered, they knew this was unlawful. This just explains how, so of those 1 to 200,000 that were injected, also they knew that they were going to inject other military personnel, you know, and or their spouses through shedding. So that's here. So because they got the skin lesions, then they infect others as well. But go on to the next slide. So this injection is quite literally the FDA's definition of a bioweapon. So on August 24th, 2015, Marion Gruber, the head of vaccine research at the FDA, who, by the way, approved Comirnaty and resigned the same day on August 23rd, 2021, she sends a letter to Sanofi. So now Sanofi is in charge of ACAM 2000. And she tells Sanofi, you know how we ordered you to do those phase 4 risk evaluation studies in the U.S. military? She says to them, you can now withdraw that data from your initial new drug application. Just make it go away.
Good night. All right, here's the next slide.
So I just wanted to point out that the NIH has been, and you and I covered this last time, the NIH has been funding bioweapons research for aerosolized smallpox and monkeypox under their alleged biodefense budget. So the NIH, since at least 2010, or I think actually even 2008, they've been running studies on rabbits and monkeys and mice where they've been spraying smallpox and monkeypox and other pox viruses in their environment to get them sick, and then they use treatments and quote-unquote vaccines to treat them. And as you just go on to the next slide, there was a recent study in 2019 where they did that, and that was based on this over $1 million NIH grant, again, where they aerosolized monkeypox and to rabbits. So keep in mind, our government, our National Institutes of Health, our ASPR, the Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response under Health and Human Services, they have aerosolized monkeypox and aerosolized smallpox. It's in their possession, right? Because that's how they're running these studies. And if you go to the next slide, it appears that not only did the FDA, I guess there's one slide missing, Emergent put out a press statement. Go on to the next slide. Maybe it's not in there.
Nope, that's it.
Oh, wow, I didn't put it in there. Emergent put out a press release. Emergent owns ACAM 2000. They put out a press release on, you can take this down for a second.
Okay, let's go back to full screen.
Yeah, so Emergent on July 2nd, 2024, who are the manufacturers of ACAM 2000, the Mpox vaccine, put out a press statement saying that Health and Human Services and the Department, the Administration of Strategic and Preparedness Response, ordered $350 million worth of product from them. Brandon, they ordered $250 million, they ordered $100 million worth of ACAM 2000. They ordered $30 million for a vaccine called Cefendis, which is an anti-anthrax vaccine. And then they ordered $130 million of product called BAT, B-A-T, and Vigiv, V-I-G-I-V, which are treatments for complications due to smallpox vaccination. And our Health and Human Services ordered that on July 2nd of this year, so just last month, or just 2 months ago. So it appears that Health and Human Services is preparing for a major bioweapons attack on U.S. soil. And it just so happens that Health and Human Services manufactures aerosolized bioweapons, and it just so happens that Health and Human Services ordered and authorized the use of bioweapons on the U.S. military in 2007.
Now, how does this, Karen, fit with, I'm going to go over there and see if I can find it real quick. We brought it up the other night, but I'd love to get your response to it. Oh, by the way, this might be, if I do that, this might be the slide, one of the slides you're referring to. Here you go.
Oh, so this just shows, this is from EcoHealth Alliance. Remember they did the pitch to DARPA?
Yep.
And this exposed, they created the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is, this chimera. It shows right here that the virus, again, is embedded into pox viruses. So it says right there, it's embedded into the nanoparticles, which is the nanotech, and or pox virus vectors. And as you go through this proposal, they say it can be aerosolized. So they can do an aerosolized attack of the smallpox on American citizens.
Okay, so with that being said, and I'm not saying these are the same things, but have you seen the video footage from the Tucson station? Do we have that footage, Reagan? I know Logan had it earlier today. The news station in Tucson talking about, and we played this last night, by the way, we played it again today at 1 o'clock, but some of the people sitting behind Donald Trump left with their eyes burning so painfully, they had to go to the emergency room. The people on the others, what would be, if we're looking at the stage, the people on the right, they're fine. The people that were separated on the left, some of them had to go to the emergency room. They were in so much pain and having such a hard time even seeing. Now, they don't know what's happened. I don't know what's happened. But it got me to thinking right away about some of the things you've been warning about for the last 3 or 4 years we've been talking.
Yeah, the aerosolized attack. I mean, tell your audience, what did I say to you when I called you before we came on the show tonight?
That this is a real threat for all of us if they want to aerosol this.
And I hope I don't have to flee the country again.
Oh, yeah, you hope that you don't get, I guess you just added me to the list, which is fine. That's what we do here. But anyway, I don't know if you know this tonight, Karen, but we have Congressman Matt Gaetz. Well, let me just play it. Let me play this for you. Here we go.
Break a little news for you. I had a senior official from the Department of Homeland Security in my office before the second assassination attempt saying that what he has assessed is that there are 5 known assassination teams in the United States, 3 inspired by other governments, 2 that are here that are known domestic assassination teams. And with that, this individual was coming to me concerned that the force protection around President Trump, even prior to that second assassination attempt, was not sufficient for what it needed to be. And the coordination at that level, at the dignitary protection level, is like the bare minimum that we have to do to keep our presidents, our presidential candidates safe while they're on the trail.
And yet, of course, now let's add in aerosol. I was saying today, last night, based on the reports coming out of Arizona, that Tucson news report talking about some of these people coming out of there with such incredible eye pain and visibility issues, they're going to the emergency room. And I said, look, we've had shooters, but what if they aerosol something, right?
Yeah, and they also can do an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse attack. So I think what's so alarming about this story that we just exposed, though, it shows that the FDA, again, not only approved, but ordered the use of bioweapons on the U.S. military under the guise of a safe and effective vaccine. And HHS will do the same to U.S. citizens. And so the only explanation for this, Brannon, is what you and I talked about 3 years ago, which is that the FDA is acting on behalf of a military enemy of the United States. And that last slide, unfortunately, the video wasn't able to transfer to you. China National Gene Bank is the People's Liberation Army, the People's Republic of China's, genetic database. It's huge. And China National Gene Bank put out a video earlier this year promoting the genetic modification of all life forms and the digitization of all life forms, including human beings, to be done by all. And in that video, that last slide shows, they show the biggest logo as their strategic partner is the United States FDA. The FDA is acting on behalf of a military enemy of the United States, as is Health and Human Services. And so if our Congress, I don't understand what's going on. This is going to destroy America, it's going to destroy Americans, and it's destroying humanity. So I don't know why there isn't more of a sense of urgency to shut down all these vaccination programs and to shut down all of HHS's budget, or the NIH budget, for this bioweapons development now. Like, it should just be shut down right now, and no needle should be going in anyone's arms.
Well, let's look at this headline. This comes from The Defender before we go to J.J. Carroll. FDA approves vaccine from Mpox, warns it may cause death in vaccinated and people they come in contact with.
Yeah, that's in the labeling. You can pull that up in the slides I showed you. It says that once you get vaccinated, you'll present with the lesions, and then those lesions you can then infect other people, as well as you can cause extensive, infection on yourself. We talked about this before, just like when you got chickenpox as a kid. Your chickenpox spreads across your body, and then you can spread it to other people. So this is an absolute bioweapon. But I think the most damning evidence is that the FDA ordered the use of this bioweapon on formerly healthy military men and women. That data should be FOIA'd, and this whole program should be shut down. Here's all it's right there. It says the myocarditis, pericarditis, and then at the bottom, ACAM 2000 contains live vaccinovirus. That's the smallpox virus. It's been recreated in a lab, and it can be transmitted to persons who have close contact with the vaccinee, the person injected. And the risks are in the context are the same as those for the vaccinated. So the same risks. You're going to come down with smallpox. You might die.
I want to make sure the audience understands that. We're not talking about the two boxes at the top. We're talking about the one. See if you can blow that up on the bottom where the arrow is. The bottom arrow, please, Reagan. ACAM 2000 contains live vaccina virus that can be transmitted to persons who have close contact with the vaccinee, and the risk in contacts are the same as those for the vaccinee. Wait a minute now. Are we basically now talking about a self-spreading vaccine, like a communicable disease in some ways?
Yeah, it's a self-spreading bioweapon.
Good.
And it's a very infectious and very deadly self-spreading bioweapon. It is the definition of a bioweapon per the FDA even said. Smallpox was eradicated in 1972. The only way that there could be an outbreak again is if there was a terrorist attack that inoculated people with it. Well, they're inoculating people with it with this injection, and they're going to also inoculate people with an aerosolized attack, or someone in the U.S. government is going to be not inoculating people with an aerosol attack. Now, what's important to know is, smallpox, they allegedly has a 25% case fatality rate for people who have no immunity. Guess what, Brandon? We have immunity. We had chickenpox.
But what about all the people that got the shot whose immunity has been destroyed?
Yeah, they're not in very good shape. They're not in very good shape.
And by the way, this screenshot is coming from the FDA.gov website.
Yeah, this is the FDA-approved labeling. This is literally what it says in the FDA approval for the vaccine. So it says it's to prevent smallpox infection, and in the same labeling it says it causes smallpox infection and transmission. This is a bioweapon. It is not a vaccine. It should not be injected into anybody. Not only does it not prevent infection and transmission, it causes infection and transmission. And it causes heart disease and death.
So when we have, I got a wrap to go to J.J. Carroll, but when we have the map put out in 2014 by that group, his name will come to me in a minute, that's tied back to the military-industrial complex, the Deagle map. When we have that predicting a 68.5% reduction in U.S. population by 2025 or sometime in 2025, over 77% in Europe. And this was supposedly done by this Deagle group tied back to the military-industrial complex, everybody. And don't forget, audience, we now have RFK Jr., and I think Karen even told us this as well, that this whole COVID vaccine was put out by the military. They just had stamped it with Pfizer and Moderna. It was actually developed by the military. That's what RFK Jr. has been saying now for some time, which is why Fauci was so involved, because most of his contracts are military. So how would the Deagle people know this decline unless they're in the business? And what is it you think they are going to release, if anything, that could cause a decrease in the U.S. population by 68.5%? Is it something like what you're describing now? Would that have this big of a death rate?
Yeah, an aerosolized attack would, because they would mandate then the injection. So it's very clear in the FDA submissions that this is for a public health emergency use. So when they declare the emergency, but I want people to don't get the injection no matter what, because I think they did the monkey study so they could show the 8 monkeys that didn't get vaccinated, they all died, right? But they were injected directly with the virus, which is what the vaccine is. So if you have an aerosol exposure, your body, your white blood cells have a good chance at fighting it off, especially if you've had chickenpox like we've had, or you had the chickenpox vaccine. So you have a much better chance. You're a much better chance of using antivirals like acyclovir, right? And Valtrex. Like, use herpes and shingles medication to fight this off. Do not get the injection, no matter what. But this is something that I don't know if Congress needs to take this up right away, or some attorneys do. I don't know, Aaron Siri. They need to FOIA that FDA bioweapons program that was authorized by the FDA, and this needs to be shut down. Brandon, I was ringing the alarm 3 years ago to shut all this down. Like, we are at the point where there may be a point of no return for America and humanity. And again, China National Gene Bank calls out the FDA as their strategic partner, in creating sustainable development of human beings.
Population control, Agenda 21, Agenda 2030. KarenKingston.substack.com is where you're going to find this tonight. Breaking news right here. The FDA authorized and then concealed a myocarditis experiment on over 100,000 military personnel using ACAM 2000 Mpox so-called vaccine. Again, KarenKingston.substack.com. She brings all the receipts and all the screenshots with her, folks. So again, it's all right there. And we're going to post this, of course, by tomorrow at worldviewtube.com. And I hope you'll grab it and share it far and wide when we post it tomorrow morning, Friday morning, at worldviewtube.com. We'll also cut it into clips and send it all over social media. And we'll send it to a few of our friends that are members of Congress, Karen. We'll shake the trees and see what happens.
Yeah, I just let them know the FDA ordered the use of a biowarfare attack on the U.S. military under the guise of a clinical experiment.
Well, as always, Karen, we appreciate your work. Our audience appreciates you as well.
Thanks, Brandon. It's always an honor to speak with you.
Thank you. Karen Kingston, it's KarenKingston.substack.com for those who want to go get it now. KarenKingston.substack.com.
What is going on currently is certain governments are now changing how they calculate these numbers. The ONS just announced a change to the calculation methodology for their excess death number, which reduces, obviously, the excess deaths because they like that result better.
During and since the coronavirus pandemic, we've generally seen more people die than we'd expect. We call these deaths above average excess deaths. Looking more closely at the last months of 2023, there were actually negative excess deaths, meaning fewer deaths than average being registered.
And you don't need any science training at all to be horrified by officials deliberately hiding key data in this scandal. And that's exactly what's going on, Madam Deputy Speaker.
So what we see here is the current method. So this is September 2023, week 21. Current method, 1,066 people died. New method, that goes down to 662. For week 24, it would have registered as 1,172. That goes down to 645. For week 32, it goes down from 427, more than usual dying, to 89, less than usual dying.
The Office of National Statistics used to release weekly data on deaths per 100,000 in vaccinated and unvaccinated populations. It no longer does that, and no one will explain why.
Popular English actor Adrian Schiller has died suddenly, aged 60, on April 4, 2024, according to his agent. The British actor was best known for playing Rich Ealdorman Athelhelm in Netflix's historical series The Last Kingdom. Adrian Schiller's cause of death has been revealed as a major ischemic stroke, his agent confirmed.
An Old Town LGBTQ stalwart and co-founder of the store Metro Retro, in Old Town, Michigan, has died suddenly. Ted Stewart, who was a staunch activist, promoted his store as a safe space for the LGBTQ community. Stewart's husband, Danny Stewart, confirmed his death, stating he passed away suddenly in his sleep on 30th of March 2024.
The owner of the Brazilian restaurant Cozinhando Escondido was found dead at home, according to the Brazilian civil police. Rivandro França was a chef and presenter at Radio Jornal who became known for creating his recipes and presenting them on TV Jornal. Chef Rivandro França was found dead on 23rd of March 2024 at his home from a suspected medical emergency.
Pioneer of female reggae in Maranhão, Glisha Helena Silva Landam, known as DJ Nega Glisha, died aged 46. DJ Nega was a pioneer in the Brazilian reggae scene. Nega Glisha was admitted to the University Hospital of the Federal University of Maranhão after suffering a brain aneurysm, but died 4 days later on February 24, 2024.
The Australian broadcast news community is mourning the loss of one of their own after the sudden death of former Channel 7 anchor. Nathan Templeton was described by his former colleagues as kind, funny, and very good at his job. Templeton, 44, was found dead near Barwon River on April 9, 2024, after suffering a medical emergency while walking his dog.
A popular Native American writer has died, according to his distraught wife. Jeffrey Vareg was renowned for an elaborate art style inspired by his indigenous Northwest Coast heritage. Vareg had been battling lupus since July 2021, which he was diagnosed with after suffering acute renal and respiratory failure that year. He died on the 12th of April, 2024 following a heart attack, aged 50.
Greg Lee, a key member of the popular California band Hepcat, has passed away at age 53. The news was shared on social media by his partner, Amanda Becker. According to Becker's Instagram post, Greg Lee suffered a severe brain aneurysm at their home in Paramount, California on Sunday, March 17, followed by a fatal cardiac arrest on March 19, 2024.
The frontman of British glam rock band Cockney Rebel has died after a brief cancer battle. Steve Harley was best known for the song Make Me Smile, Come Up and See. Harley announced in late 2023 that he had to cancel tour dates as he had been diagnosed with a nasty cancer and was receiving treatment. He died at home on March 17, 2024.
Looking up, isn't it? We're selling a few tickets again. People are just that bit more optimistic now. I've had my first jab. It's utterly painless. You don't know you've had it. No after effects, nor did my wife have any. It's looking up, I reckon.
Getting over the denial of the reality is the first part. There are over 20 million people vaccine murdered. The vaccine is a bioweapon that was designed for population reduction. This cannot be understated. Big money for hospitals, big money for pharma, and of course, mind control from the mainstream media propaganda outlet. As it has once been said, or more than once been said, all you have to do is make a lie, make it simple, keep repeating it over and over again, and eventually everyone will believe it. Safe and effective. Get vaxxed.
The FDA vaccine cover-up is finally exposed. The groundwork for this genocide has been planned decades ago and has now been implemented under the COVID pandemic. We are being ruled by a corporatocracy which has replaced our government in Washington, D.C. A corporate government is shaping up. The time to act is now. Be able to speak out. Don't turn to the government or the media. They're not our parents. Medical concentration camps in New York State, a complete violation of every constitutional and human right we have. These tyrants work for us, and they don't like being reminded of it. This is why our 1st, 2nd, 4th, 8th, and 14th Amendments are always targets of attack. The Declaration of Independence says we are bound to replace these people when they become dysfunctional. Time to organize, speak out at every community opportunity.
This is it, folks. The time is running out. Take a look around. We have never seen anything like this before. If you haven't taken the time to ask Jesus to be your Lord and Savior with all sincerity, please, please do so as soon as possible, because the time is running out on us very quickly.
Crossan and colleagues, Harvard, the messenger RNA is physically stuck in the heart. It physically gets stuck in the heart, and it installs the genetic code, and the spike protein is produced. The heart should be nice and pink, as shown on the right, and not all white and full of inflammation, as shown on the left. The hearts are inflamed in people who took the shots. This paper by Bowmeyer shows the spike protein staining in that salmon color is physically in the heart. We shouldn't have Wuhan spike protein in young boys hospitalized in Germany with myocarditis. Should not be in the heart of young men, but it is in those who took the vaccine. Schreckenberg showed that even putting Pfizer or Moderna directly on a cardiomyocyte, a heart muscle cell in the test tube, the heart muscle cell is poisoned. Doesn't contract normally, it doesn't depolarize or repolarize normally. It's cardiotoxic. If this experiment would have been done in the fall of 2020, it would have been full stop. No drug company would bring a product to market where it looks like it poisons the cell right in the test tube. But these studies weren't done. They were brought out, and we were told that these are safe, they're effective, and we're going to take it and we're going to go with it. An article of faith, vaccine ideology.
मोरे के बेटे मिलिंद मोरे की थाने के शिवसेना यूबीडी पार्टी लीडर रघुनाथ मोरे के बेटे मिलिंद मोरे अपने मोरे के बेटे मिलिंद मोरे की थाने के शिवसेना यूबीडी पार्टी लीडर रघुनाथ मोरे के बेटे मिलिंद मोरे अपने मोरे के बेटे मिलिंद मोरे की थाने के शिवसेना यूबीडी पार्टी लीडर रघुनाथ मोरे के बेटे मिलिंद मोरे अपने